Hey, everybody, it's Jim Hart here, and welcome back to the Legal Gym Podcast, the show where I help entrepreneurs, coaches, and small business owners like you to build and protect your business the right way. Now, I know most of you didn't start your business because you love reading legal contracts or studying state regulation, but here's the truth. If you ignore the legal side of your business, it can definitely come back to haunt you in a really big way. So that's why today we're diving into 5 things that you need to do to make sure your business is legally protected. We're going to be talking about LLCs, contracts, trademarks, compliance, and even what your website needs to help keep you out of trouble. So if you've ever wondered, am I really covered, legally speaking? This episode is for you. So let's go ahead and jump right into today's episode. For most people that are just getting started in entrepreneurship, the idea of starting and running a small business, typically an online business, is exciting, but it's also very risky. You may be excited about the possibility of lifestyle and location freedom and running your business from a cafe in Europe or maybe even a Caribbean beach overlooking the ocean. But before you get started, there are some important safety precautions you must take to legally protect your small business. Most entrepreneurs focus on building their brand, attracting clients and customers, and growing revenue. And these are all mission critical for your enterprise. But if you don't take the time you need to make sure your business is legally protected, you're leaving yourself exposed to lawsuits, disputes, and potentially devastating financial losses. And I'm not joking. I've seen this before from other clients. So the good news is that protecting your business doesn't have to be complicated. With the right foundation in place, you can run your business with confidence, knowing you're covered if and when problems come up. So today we're going to go through 5 essential steps that every small business owner, coach, freelancer, or entrepreneur should take to make sure their business is legally protected. Before we get to that, though, I do want to remind you that while I am a lawyer, I am not your lawyer. And if you do have questions about any of the tips I'm about to talk with you about in today's episode, I would strongly encourage you to reach out to a lawyer in your jurisdiction or state who may be able to help you with some of the state-specific issues you're going to deal with. All right, let's get back to today's episode. So step number 1 is going to be to choose the right business structure for your small business. This is the first step, and honestly, it's one of the most critical steps that you can take. If you're running your business as a sole proprietorship, you and your business are legally the same entity. That means that if your business gets sued, you effectively get sued, which also means that your personal assets, that could be your house, your car, even potentially your retirement savings, could all be at risk. Now, forming a limited liability company, it's also called an LLC, and most of you have probably heard of this, or even a corporation, which I don't necessarily recommend for a lot of small businesses, but some people decide to go that route. When you form that, an LLC or a corporation, it's going to separate you personally from your business. And this is a great way to legally protect your small business and your personal assets because it creates what we refer to as a legal shield that helps protect your personal assets if something goes wrong with your business. And honestly, one of the other benefits of that is that it also protects your business assets if you get into trouble legally on a personal level. So if you're driving your car one day and you hit somebody and they get injured and it's your fault, then they might want to sue you and come after your business. And you can protect your business from those personal liabilities as well. For most entrepreneurs, an LLC is going to be the best balance of simplicity, affordability, and protection for your business. It's easier to maintain than a corporation, and it still gives you that liability protection that you need. So when people say, why do I need a limited liability company? The main reason is going to be because of the limited liability it affords you. Now, pro tip here, don't just form your LLC. Make sure you also adopt an operating agreement and do all the other things that you're going to need to do to operate your business properly once you have that LLC formed. It's not enough to merely file that paperwork with the state, get it back, and then shove it in a drawer somewhere and not do anything with it. You actually have to proactively take steps after you form the LLC to make sure you're operating your business properly with the LLC. I can't tell you how many people I've dealt with or talked to or even had to fix problems with who formed an LLC and then didn't open a bank account or didn't get an EIN number or didn't do those type of things that they need to do to make sure they're running their business properly. So the operating agreement is one thing that you're going to need to do, and that's the document that basically governs how your LLC is run, who owns what, how decisions get made, and without it, you're really relying on state law to decide these things for you, because if you don't have an operating agreement, then the rules that you must follow are basically the state statute, where you live or where you form the LLC. And honestly, that rarely works in your favor, and most people don't even know what those statutes say. So you definitely want to have an operating agreement. You definitely want to make sure you have an operating agreement in place where you understand and have actually had a say in what that agreement actually says so that you know how to operate your business the right way. If you don't already have one, we do have an operating agreement template. I'll include a link in the show notes that's been drafted specifically for small business owners like you. So that's step number one. Choose the right business structure for your business. And for most people, that's going to be an LLC. But again, if you've got questions, do your research, talk to a lawyer, make sure you're doing it the right way. Number two, you want to make sure you register your trademarks and protect your brand. Whether you know it or not, your brand is one of the most valuable assets that your business has. It's how people you're trying to do business with will recognize you, trust you, and decide to do business with you. Your brand is going to give you a competitive advantage that sets you apart from your competition. But too many entrepreneurs assume that if they registered their LLC or bought a domain name and use the name of the brand that they're trying to put out there into the marketplace, then their brand is protected. But unfortunately, this is just not true. The only way to secure exclusive rights to your business name, your logo, your slogan, is by applying for a federal trademark with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. A trademark registration, once you've received it, gives you the legal tools to stop copycats, protect your reputation and brand identity, and even add value to your business if you ever decide to sell it. And not to mention, it could also help keep a sale from falling through if when your proposed buyer is looking to make sure your trademarks are registered on a federal level. Without a registered trademark, you could literally spend years building your brand only to discover that someone else has the legal rights to the name you're using. I want you to imagine having to undergo an expensive rebrand, and these are not, they're typically going to be 5 or 6 figure rebrands. After pouring thousands of dollars into marketing your brand and educating the public about the services you provide, it happens more than you think. So, pro tip here, don't DIY your trademark application or use a cheap filing service. Trademarks are complicated and mistakes can cost you years of loss protection for your brand names. I recommend working with a trademark attorney like Hawthorne Law, who understands how to navigate the USPTO process and can help you protect your rights from the very start. All right, so that's number 2, register your trademarks and protect your brand. Number 3 is going to be to use contracts for every business relationship you have. One of the biggest legal mistakes that I see entrepreneurs, I don't know why I'm having a hard time saying that word today, I apologize for that, but one of the biggest legal mistakes I see entrepreneurs make is relying on handshake deals, DMs, or email threads as their contracts. Don't take this as legal advice, but honestly, that's a recipe for disaster. Every business relationship you enter into should be backed by a written contract. This includes agreements with your clients or your customers. This includes independent contractor agreements if you're hiring people to help you in your business. It includes employee contracts. It includes partnership or joint venture agreements. It includes all the information that you need to have on your website. So if somebody's purchasing something directly off your website, do you have a terms of sale listed that talks about refund policies, what happens if there's a problem with the product, different things like that. Why is this important? Because contracts set expectations, they protect your cash flow, and they give you legal remedies if something goes wrong. Without a contract in place, you're leaving yourself open to scope creep, and we can talk about that more on another episode, late payments, and endless disputes. At a minimum, every client or customer contract that you use should clearly cover what services you're providing and honestly, what services you're not providing. This is how to avoid scope creep, otherwise known as doing work for free that was not agreed to ahead of time. The contract should also cover payment terms and deadlines, how disputes will be handled if they arise. Your refund policy is very important, and what happens if you or the client wants to terminate the agreement. Another pro tip here, don't borrow a contract from a friend or copy something you found online. Generic templates aren't written for your business and can actually create more risk if you're not using them properly. If you need help, I do have, and I'll leave a link in the show notes, my professional client contract template, and that's a great place to start if you're working with clients on a one-on-one basis. So that's step number 3, make sure you're using contracts for every business relationship you have. Step 4 is to make sure you're staying compliant with business licenses, permits, and state regulations. Now, depending on your niche or your industry, you may need specific business licenses, permits, or approvals to operate legally. For example, I'm a lawyer. if I'm going to practice law, and I do have a law firm separate and apart from this business, I have to have a law license. I can't do that without a law license. Let me think of another example. If you're like a hairstylist, you might need to have a license in your state or in your locale to provide that type of service to your clients. So some other common examples that we see are coaches and consultants. If you're a health coach, you might need certain licensing to provide that type of advice. If you are a consultant, you might need specialized skills or licenses or things like that. If you're an accountant, you need to be, a licensed CPA. If you're a doctor, you need a medical license. These are professional licenses, but there's also all sorts of other people that will need licenses to do certain business. If you're a mechanic and you're operating an auto repair shop, you likely need a license to do that in your state. So, but other common examples, coaches and consultants, if you offer regulated services, again, you're talking about healthcare, you're talking about financial advice, you're talking legal advice, tax advice, things like that. You probably need a license to do that. If you're running an e-commerce business, you might not need a license to do that, but you definitely need to comply with the sales tax laws in your state, which vary from state to state. Some states have sales tax, other states don't. What's the nexus between you and the people that are buying your products? That could dictate whether or not you need to have sales tax in place. In addition, if you're selling products through an e-commerce store, you may also have requirements on what labels need to go on those products. So, for example, if you're selling anything that somebody would ingest into their body or put on their body, chances are you need to have some sort of warning label or FDA approval for that, and you need to make sure you follow those proper labeling requirements. If you're in the food or health businesses, you might need various health department approvals or FDA compliance for that. If you're running an online business and you're doing affiliate marketing or soliciting testimonials or things like that, there's all sorts of FTC rules that revolve around advertising testimonials and affiliate marketing. The key here is you need to make sure you do your own research and make sure you're compliant at the local, state, and federal levels. If you're unsure, again, talk to a business attorney in your state and check your state's Small Business Administration resources. There's frequently an SBA office in most major cities that can help you with these type of things. If you're short on funds, if you have the money and you have the budget to hire a lawyer, that's obviously a great option. Another pro tip here, compliance is not one of these things that's one and done. Laws and regulations are going to change all the time. So make it a habit to review what you're doing with your business and whether you're legally compliant at least once a year. I would set it on your task list or on your calendar or just, you can tell your iPhone to set a reminder for 1 year from now to review my compliance issues. So whatever you decide to do, make sure you do that and make sure you stay compliant. That's very important. Failure to do so can get you into a whole bunch of hot water, not only with clients, or customers, also at the state and federal level with the government. So that's number 4. Make sure you stay compliant with your business licenses, permits, and regulations. The 5th tip that I'm going to give you today is to make sure you're protecting your online presence. So most small businesses today operate at least partially online. Whether you're running a coaching business, whether you're selling products through an online store or offering services via your website, this means your website needs to be legally compliant too. So there are several must-have legal documents that you need to have on your website. The privacy policy is going to be the most important one. If you are collecting information, whether it's email addresses, phone numbers, physical addresses, payment information, etc., you need to have a privacy policy. Did I say that right? You need to have a privacy policy in place that advises people how you're going to use their information, how they can have you purge your system of that information, how you're storing that information, things like that. That's going to be very important. Secondly, you need to have a website terms of service. This is the rules for how visitors can interact with and use your website, what they can and can't do with the information on your website. Third, you need to have some disclaimers in place. These are especially important if you're a coach providing any type of advice, if you're a health business, or giving tax or legal or any type of advice like that. You want to make sure you have some sort of disclaimer on your website or on your podcast or on your YouTube channel or wherever that lets them know that this information should not be construed as, medical advice, as legal advice, as tax advice. And if they want that information, then they need to go out and seek the help of a professional that can give them that information on a personalized basis. The next major contract you need for your website is going to be a terms of sale. So if you're selling products or services directly through your website where somebody is not talking with you, but they're just going ahead and buying something through your website. For example, on my One Stop Legal website, we sell legal contracts and templates. And if you purchase one of those, you do need to go through and read the terms of conditions that come with those templates. So this is something typically you're going to ask somebody to check the box on the checkout screen to make sure they're aware of your terms of sale and they're aware of your refund policy and they're aware of the limitations of what those products might do for them. And that's going to be very important. Skipping these contracts isn't just risky, it can also cost you sales. For example, platforms like Google Ads or Facebook Ads often will not approve your ads if that's how you're getting clients, unless your website has a proper privacy policy. I figured this out the hard way years and years and years ago before privacy policies were a big deal. Not to mention that your clients or your customers are going to be less likely to work with you if you don't have the proper legal protections in place on your website. Now, I'm going to give you another pro tip here. If you're not sure what your website needs, you can make sure to grab our website legal bundle, which includes attorney drafted templates for you, for your privacy policies, your disclaimers, and your terms of service and terms of sale, and much more. And again, I'll include a link to that in the description below. So let's go ahead and wrap up today. Running a business is one of the most rewarding things you can do, but it also comes with a bunch of, or I should say, a number of nuanced legal risks. By taking the time to choose the right business structure, register your trademarks, use contracts in your relationships, stay compliant with licenses and regulations, and protect your online presence through online contracts that you use on your website, these are the things you're going to be doing to take proactive steps towards building a solid legal foundation for your long-term legal and professional success. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you've been in business for a number of years. It's never too late to legally protect your small business. And if you're ready to put these protections in place, I recommend you check out our legal template store or reach out to a business lawyer directly for assistance. Your business deserves to grow without the fear of legal problems holding you back. All right. That's it for today's episode of the Legal Gym Podcast. I hope you found these 5 tips helpful, and more importantly, that you'll take action and put them into place in your own business. Remember, protecting your business legally isn't about making things complicated. It's about giving yourself the freedom to grow without looking over your shoulder, wondering if something is going to go wrong. If you'd like some extra help, I put together a collection of easy-to-use legal templates that cover things like operating agreements, client contracts, and website policies. You can check these out over at onestoplegal.co. Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe, share it with a fellow business owner of yours, and leave a quick review. It really helps more people find the show. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep protecting your dream. We'll talk soon.